Okay, so all of you knows Dr. Leman was a real leader for all the swine industries at the end of the 80s and beginning of the 90s. And I didn't know him personally, but from the people I know which were around him, and I met him once at F. Menard in 1990s. And his great qualities was passion, charisma, people person, proactive, cost sensitive. And I think it has been a very good inspiration for the good science practice, swine practice, but also good science. And the legacy are his grad students, and I didn't put all of them on the slides, but I put some of them which were coming in the top of my mind. And quality of the advisor really show how good students they were, and they are still doing a lot for the swine industry. So Dr. Sylvie Dallaire, Dr. Bob Morrison, Monty Mecca, sadly, who disappeared, but I will talk about Monty a bit, Tim Blackwell, Tom Stein, Morgan Morrow, Kirk Clark, Jean-Pierre Vaillancourt, and that's for sure Dr. Tom Molitor. There is so many of them that I cannot put all. The first time I think I've seen him was at the Swine Health Programming Conference, because I'm an old vet. I like to keep all my books all lined up in my library. And you can see my name. And it's Dr. Coleman who showed me how to put always your name on the top of your program. And so it was in 1988, and Dr. Leman was giving a memorial lectureship, the Kern Camp lecture. And the title was Diagnosis and Treatment of Food Animal Educational Diseases. And at that time, he already moved to swine graphic, where he wanted to be more in real practice. But what I really liked from that paper was he put a quote which I think is still so real today. And he said, livestock producers want and will continue to want veterinary service. They want veterinarians to be co-responsible for farm success or failure, help share the burden or worry, compare their farm with other similar farms, authenticate their farm decisions and judgments, and finally increase farm profits by reducing cost and increasing throughput. And it's so true. I mean, he was so there with his thinking still. He also gave a presentation in the same conferences, repopulation strategies and cost, which is fun because he sadly disappeared before seeing all the research which has been done on PRRS. But I really think that it's still a very good strategy for PRRS control. So what would Dr. Leman do for PRRS? And before that, I would like to share with you and with Dr. Leman what is my history with PRRS. So I graduated from the Faculty of Vet Medicine in '87 in Saint-Hyacinthe, and I start right away with F. Menard, which is a swine integrated company in Canada. We're producing 1 million pigs per year, and we are really in an agricultural and swine dense area. This is a mentality of Mr. Menard, really put the farms where the grain is because it's supposed to cost less. So this is the province of Quebec, and this is the St. Lawrence River. This is Montreal, and we're just in the middle of this is pig farms. So there is 3 big regions, the Beauce, Quebec area, the Montérégie, and north of Montreal, and we're just in the middle of that region. So it's very good for agriculture, but it's very good for PRRS transmissions. So my first PRRS case was in 1988, and since 25 years, I had at least more than 500 cases, and I'm a dreamer, I know, but my dream was really to retire when I will have controlled PRRS. So I might be very, very old. So the PRRS cost in United States, and Dr. Leman was very, very sensitive to cost. So in United States, it was estimated lately at 664 million. In Canada, we think it's around 150 million, and in Quebec, about 40 million. When we look at this in more details, the cost of PRRS in maternity, nursery, and finishers, my colleague Charles Surprenant made a review. And if we look at Dr. Newman, Yeski, study from Ontario, and within F. Menard, the PRRS break, we estimate it costs about $60 per sow or $2.77 per piglets in maternity, $4 and $43 in nursery, and $7.19 in finisher. So on the overall, cost per sows is $322. So we do not invent the rules, the wheels. It's really like the same than what is published, and it's about $15 per pig. So it's very, very costly to live with PRRS. This is a very good compilation done by Dr. Christian Klopfenstein from CDPQ in 2008, showing the distance of our sow herds in Quebec as compared to nursery and finisher farm. And as you can see, this is the kilometers. So we have 41% of the sow herd, which are having at least 2 sites, either nursery or finisher, within 1 kilometer radius, which is 0.6 miles. So it's very, very dense. We have pig farm all over our sow herds, which really challenge them as far as PRRS transmissions. This is a picture of my Ange Gardien sow farm. This is my largest sow farm, a 2,750 sows. It has been constructed in the 60s by Mr. Menard. He was very innovative. And this was a 2-deck floor, as you can see. So in the 60s, it was chicken on the top and sows on the bottom. And these barns, we have no more chickens on the top. But these sows are still sow farm, and here is for finisher, which I use as GDU initially, but then I changed the plan. But this is a sows in a very dense region. And just to show you, I got some fun of doing the neighborhood of my Ange Gardien sow farm. So within a 2 miles radius. Look how it is interesting to see all the different points surrounding the farms. So there is 18 pig barn, totalizing 30,000 pigs, mostly finishing hogs, different ownership. Our slaughter plants is in the town, so about 2 kilometers away. We're killing 2,400, and the road just going by Ange Gardien sow farm is really attended because all the pigs are going by. And we also have a manure collection pit where we put the manure of 6 different farms at about 2 kilometers. So it's a pretty challenging barn, and in some days in my career I asked my husband, why don't we put chicken in that? And he say, go in vacation and come back. So I still live with that and try to control it. So this is a graph of the pig wean per sow per year. I really like to use it. And this is all the different strain that I had since 2004 in Ange Gardien. Okay, new strain for me are strain which are having an homology less than 98%. So as soon as they have 98 and higher, I call it's probably the same one who may be mutate or change. But when it's less, like 96, 95%, I call it this way. Am I right or not right? They had a very good session yesterday. But anyway, this is the way I called it. So, but what is very interesting to see is what the new introduction of each of the strain, 12 strains between 2004 and 2012, and the impact on pig wean per sow per year. So you can see, and you all knows that, I know, but like 28 and going to 18 in a herd, which is like kind of some immunity, it's really hurting quite a lot. And this is the impact on nursery. All our nursery are off-site. It's all 3-size productions. So this is the impact on nursery. You see? So the losses, as shown lately, are not only on the sow herd, but also in nursery. So it's why it's so dramatic. I made some fun of trying to group all the cases, the strains I had since 2004 in all my sow farm, and group my sow farm according to where they were, either remote area, more than 3 kilometers away from sow farm, my 2-filtered farm, medium to dense area, which means 1 to 3 kilometers where you have farms, and a dense area where we have at least 2 farms in less than 1 kilometer. So I have 4 farms, 2 farms, 11 farms, and the total number of sows. But what is really fun to see is that the incidence of new strains, like in remote area, had 1 strain every 204 months. so very, very unusual, and in both cases it was not aerosol transmission. Filtered farm, I had one in 23 months, so this means one every 2 years. Medium to dense area, one every 27 months. And dense area, one every 11 months. So one per year. So really the distance to swine farm is really having a very big impact also on the incidence of new PRRS virus strain. I did my Bob Morrison of myself, and I look at the incidence according to the month where they were introduced. From January 2004 to May 2012, I put all the new strain introduction in herd by month. And we are really seeing the same type of pattern than you are seeing in Minnesota and Iowa. And really October, November, it's where we have most of our new sows, new strain introduced. And then it calmed down. And we have also a small blip in April also. So the same pattern like Dr. Morrison showed lately in the herd you have. So what would Dr. Leman do for PRRS? So PRRS control in 2012, I tried to share what I did over all these years, and I think maybe Dr. Leman would have adopted some of these techniques. And what I will talk is systemic approach to minimize disease expression, Gilt acclimatization for PRRS positive sow herd, the use of diagnostic tools, PCR and sequencing, strong biosecurity rules, barn filtration in hog-dense area, PRRS regional control, and what are the new areas of research. Controlling the system to minimize disease. I'm a real believer of having clean head of pyramid flow. I think you are too, but the boar studs, nucleus, sow multiplication, replacement gilts must be PRRS negative. I know that around the world there is still some positive boar studs, some positive multiplication, and even if the strain is mild, I really think it's having an impact on production. So I'm a strong believer that you should have the top PRRS negative so that to be clean. I will talk about Gilts acclimation, and then even if your herd are PRRS positive, you can produce PRRS negative piglets in nursery and finisher, and all this is having a tremendous impact on all the production flow. Within the Menard system, we organized, because of our PRRS challenge was so high, we really organized our structure to minimize the expression of the disease, because I have to live with PRRS anyway, so how can I do better with my system? So we have different flow of pigs. Each of the flow are corresponding to a sow herd, and each sow herd are supplying a set of nurseries and finishers, and each of the sow herd are joined with a gilt acclimation barn. So all single source, 3 sites, all in, all out. I'm a real believer of not mixing sources, because when you mix sources, you mix disease. I know that some people are not agree with me, but I still believe that. And I think that all in, all out makes that you cut disease cycle. So it's very important. And I will talk about gilt acclimation and the management practices. One of the person who really influenced me very much in my career was Dr. Monty Mecca. And I really think that it was really genius to think at that technique of Mecrabel. And I think that Dr. Leman would have been very proud of him. So management to change Mecrabel. This was in compendium of 2003 for PRRS. And I called it the Menard rule, sow herd management, to reduce impact of disease. And I really think that inducing sows can really matter for immunity of the piglets. So I'm really suggesting to stop inducing. If we induce, it's just the end of the room, like maybe 10% of the sows, so that we clean up the room, all in, all out. Colostrum intake, day 0. Leave maximum of piglets to their mother. More and more, I ask, well, if she has 11, 12, 13, 14, leave the piglets to the mother. This is the perfect match. Don't try to change according to weight or to numbers. So this makes minimum cross fostering. The 15 and more are going to the 10 and less, and that's it, that's all. They keep their pigs, and I've seen really increased weight and really more stabilization of PRRS. And in PRRS outbreak, I still, since 2003, completely stopped cross fostering for about a month. That's for sure. We are within an integrated company, and I'm paying for the piglets which are killed. So I really do not want that the guy try to change it, because I think that it makes a difference. And Monty really gave us a great legacy with that. And I even, but this we can talk, but I think that cross-fostering will even create some change and mutation in the PRRS virus strain, but this is another thing. Thus, Dr. Leman would have used gilt acclimatization in order to control PRRS in his herds, and I really think yes, certainly. The pioneers are here in this room, Dr. Scott D. With his early researchers. I remember going to see him. Well, what do I have to do, Scott, to stabilize my sow herds? Muncie, which really work also on the PIC, putting the naive gilts in PRRS positive herds. Laura Batista, which at that time in Mexico, she was a practitioner. She was not having any PRRS vaccine, so she was the first one to use seroimmunization. And Dr. Mark Fitzsimmons, which has really been a mentor to me. I remember coming here at the Leman and talking with him about his gilts acclimatization at swine graphic. And this is again one of the paper that I kept, so with some notes and what he was doing, PRRS control in large. And what Mark said in 1999 is that acclimation with homologous field virus away from the sow herd. And I really think it's very important to do acclimatization away from the sow herd, not to challenge it. So another paper which was really, really good was the one from Dr. Laura Batista, where she did eradication of PRRS virus by seroinoculation with homologous PRRS virus strain with Carlos at that time. And the key factors were really achieving complete herd serializing immunity to eliminate naive subpopulation. Scott was talking about it a lot. Exposure of replacement gilts for the next 5 months to the homologous PRRS virus strain, and farm closure. And we're still doing it very much in these days to stabilize the sow herd. I had the chance to have contact with Laura Batista because she came at the faculty for some years, and I did put a paper together with Sylvie Dallaire and herself on gilt exposure to the homologous PRRS virus strain during acclimatization. And this is still our strategy at Menard, to acclimate gilts at a very young age in order to wean PRRS negative piglets from PRRS positive stable sow herd. Just quickly, this is each of the sow herd I joined to a gilts acclimation barn. Each of them are having their own PRRS virus strain, so I never mix strains. And we are sero-exposing the gilts in the off-site isolated gilt acclimation barn. And then when they enter into the sow herd, they become one single unit. Everybody is immunized, and you have very good performances. And I even use it for long-term acclimatization, where I put the PRRS naive gilts. We sero-immunize them at 55 days. We have a very long cool down in the off-site gilt acclimation barn, or GDU. Then I introduce them at 180 days in the quarantine on the site where they cool down again. And then they will be put in a gilt gestation altogether. So when they come in contact with the older sows, they are fully immunized gilts. What I like about it is following an outbreak, I will automatically do gilt acclimatization of site in order to stabilize the sow herd right away. And in some cases, in hog dense area, we'll use that gilt acclimation because this is the strain anyway from the region, so I will be immunized to that strain. So I will keep on for some time, for 2 years doing that, but also use it very highly for eradication, where I do the acclimation off-site for about 9 months to a year, and then I emptied up the gilt GDU, and then I start to introduce PRRS negative, and the gilts introduced are remaining PRRS negative. What would Dr. Leman have thought about PRRS virus, PCR, and sequencing to help in PRRS control? And this is probably one of my favorite subjects. I think you cannot have PRRS control if you do not use diagnostic. Diagnostic is the most important thing to really solve and know what you're doing and where you're going. So I use it at the different level of production. And thanks to Dr. Murta and Dr. Zimmerman for helping us with sequencing, with oral fluid. I think that we are still trying to understand everything, but the more we'll work on it, the more data we'll have, the more we'll understand. So it's very important to monitor. And one of the things, this is the type of thing that you see I have quite some strain. Since 98, we at Menard have 485 sequences identified. So when yesterday they were talking about, well, is it homologous to a strain within your system? The more strain you have, this is just like a puzzle, the more you will be able maybe to put the pieces together. And I really suggest that you keep on to do sequencing with the HOR5. And like in this case, at that farm in 2012, I can see that in that farm, it was not the same strain than 2008 or 2005. Very heterologous, however, it is similar to many strains within our system, and this I will come back. I think it was like an internal contamination, not aerosol contamination, so it tells you, well, is it homologous, heterologous to the previous strain, and what is the relationship to the other sequences. I've been lucky to be in a part of very good researcher, and with Robert Desrosiers also and some other vets in Quebec, we collaborate with this work with Sylvie Dallaire, La Rochelle, and Magar on molecular epidemiology of PRRS virus in Quebec, starting in 1988. And it's really the first work that we did where we were getting out of the cloud for once. I mean, all the presumption we were having about the relationship between strain, then we were having proof of it with the R5 sequencing. So between 98 and 2002, 226 field cases were analyzed, and the R5 PRRS virus sequencing was done. And what Sylvie found with La Rochelle and Magar, that the main relationship between strain, as we can think, introduction of infected animal, that's for sure. We had the proof that when we introduce PRRS positive female, it will give some trouble to the sow herd. But also the area spread, the distance between farm. At that time, we already had presumption that they had some aerosol transmission, but also the notion of ownership. Is it the same or different ownership? And this really makes a difference for transmission of a strain within a system. Right now, in 2012, Sylvie Dallaire, she's now having a bank of 2,500 PRRS virus sequencing. She's participating in our PRRS regional control in Quebec, so she will have even more sequences as we go on. And she found some grouping of sequences from Quebec field case, and in our case, we call it the tsunami strain. Sometimes you call it 144, 118.4, but in our case, it's a tsunami strain. And one is Katrina, the other one is Irene. We like it, you know, it's more romantic. It's our French side, so. And this is for 10% of the sequence database, which is that tsunami, which appeared in 2007. So, and what is sure is that that tsunami strain is 13% of the F. Menard sequences. What about Dr. Leman's perception of biosecurity today? And I really want to share with you and with Dr. Leman 2 cases I had over the last spring while I was trying to start to prepare my paper between all my PRRS case and my work. And so it was not very welcome. In April 26, we had the PRRS naive sow herd, very isolated farm, where I had a new PRRS virus introduction, and it was our 5 sequence called the tsunami strain. Here is my tsunami strain. So you can see how dramatic it has been. It was a PRRS negative. Pig wean per sow per year. So I was at 28, and 1 month I sold the amount of 4 pigs per sow per year into that sow herd. Nothing was good in the farrowing crates anymore. Everything was dead. So very, very dramatic impact on reproductive, on the reproductions. When we look at the homology with some other strain within our system, we were having a strain which has been identified. This was in May. Identified in March. This was a Gilts acclimation barn on completely another site, very isolated from there. And in Yamaska, which was also very dramatic in last November. So I really think that there had a transmission between these farms, and I cannot say exactly, but because it's homologous to the sequence within our organization, I will not say it's aerosol transmission. Anyway, there is no farm within 5 kilometers. There is wood, and this farm didn't have break since the last 12 years. However, we had many repairs, many visitors during the last months. I think that the shower were inadequate and disinfection room, and we don't estimate enough the impact of these type of introduction within our herds. So I really think it was an internal contamination and a biosecurity breach by personnel. I can tell it was not going well at F. Menard at these days. I was pretty mad. In April 23, almost the same week, it was just like a nightmare. Filtered sow farm, and my filtered sow farm, I should not have broken that. I'm not happy there either. PRRS naive and your new PRRS virus introduction. At first we thought, well, it's the same strain. It was not the same strain at all, completely another strain. But what is for sure is that the strain we found was very, very similar to some that we had within our system. This is a sow herd who broke. These are the piglets from that sow herd. And I can tell you into that nursery we had up to, over last winter, 30 to 40% mortality. Very, very, very wild strain. Not so much reproductive, very much on nursery and finisher mortality. These pigs went to a finisher barn within our system because these are contracted farm. They went to a finisher farm because usually our habit at F. Menard is we hide the bad pigs in our farm so that they don't go to contracted farm. But then it's within my system. So the guys can go to do a repair in the finisher barn, and they can do a repair also in the sow barn with some withdrawal period. But you will see that according to my logbook, what's happened is on the Friday morning, we did a repair in the finisher barn, which we see the highly contaminated piglets. And on the Monday morning, he went to the repair at the filtered sow farm 72 hours later. With the same crew, same truck, but he took a shower, he took the disinfection room, but we introduced fans for recirculation so that to cool down the sows for the coming summer, and I'm pretty sure that it had been introduced by that crew who came to do the repair. So it was in April, wet, but I really think that some viruses can live even in trucks over weekends. So I really think that PRRS virus was introduced by contaminated material. It needs very few viruses to infect, so this is not new. Literature is saying that, but when it's happened, it's even more true. And there had a very high survival of some viruses and stability in the environment. So we are living with viruses very, very wild. I'm sure that Dr. Leman would have been very happy to see all the good work which has been done by the University of Minnesota over the last few years on route of transmission, and Otaki made a very good summary of that. Very good research lately also on manure. So we all know the route of transmission, but what we do with that. There is also a very good paper with a group of Sylvie Dallaire and Zvonimir Bojak from which look at epidemiology of PRRS virus and the risk in breeding site. What this table said is that the predictor associated with PRRS positive status and the odds ratio. So each producing units means number of animals. The more you have animals, the more the chance to have PRRS positive status. Distance from closest pig site, also high odds ratio of being PRRS positive. But they also find out in their study, and it's the PhD of Marie-Ève Lambert, no shower at the entrance and access to the site by rendering truck is also having high numbers to be infected. Very interesting. The same group, another paper, is that they look at the percentage of pairwise combination having more than 98% homology between them. They look at the distance between sites. They look either it was the same ownership or a different ownership. And what we can see if we look at the general, you have much more chance of having homology between your strain if you're within the same ownership as compared to different ownership, whatever the distance. So that's for sure there is, sometimes you take piglets from a sow herd, put in a nursery, that's for sure there is homology. But I think that within each of the system we can transmit through bad biosecurity or leakage in biosecurity. So people will tell you, well, yes, I do my shower, I disinfect the things, all this, all that. But don't believe everything. Strict compliance with biosecurity rule is the single most important factors. And when you got a contamination, it's very important you try to find out with the R5 sequencing where it comes from. Don't assume it's coming by air. It's too easy to assume that. And when there is internal contamination, it's very important to put the thing in place to change it. A very good paper showing also the importance of R5 as compared to RFLP pattern has been published lately. And Dr. Murta is on that paper, and it's with the University of Hong Kong and with Guelph, but it's showing, and like Dr. Murta was saying yesterday, within the same RFLP pattern, I mean, you can have very high diversity in the virus, and it sometimes cannot be the same. So R5 is really the best way to identify the virus. And I will not negate that PRRS control, the site is a primary factor. If you're very isolated, like the one on the right, versus my Ange Gardien South Farm, that's for sure you have differences. Would Dr. Leman have used air filtration to prevent new introduction of PRRS virus? And another very good paper, which was is in the proceeding also, which was at the pre-conference, where Scott is like the first author on that, on the evaluation of long-term air filtration, with Gordon, Darwin, which works so much on that. I think that in summary, and you all know these data, pre-filtration, post-filtration, number of new cases, 58. I don't have to prove that every one of you knows that filtration is working. Carmen, she's such a nice girl from Spain and at the University of Minnesota, and she gave a very good paper also in Korea, and again, here it has been shown, but the economic evaluation of air filtrations, and she also shown that if we look at the firing rate by 3 months, comparing non-filtered versus filtered farm, the red one, there is a difference, and she has shown it also on pig wean per sow per year and on the different criteria. So there is a big advantage also economically. These are my two filtered sow farm. Saint-Brigide, 2008, and Presqu'île. As you can see, these are Novico, because in Quebec it was the one which was more easily available and is having some advantage. This is the antimicrobial filters. And this is a graph I just want to explain you, because I think it's very interesting graph. So this is my Saint-Brigide, the 2008 filtered barn. So this is pre-filtration, 44 months before, 44 months after. And before, I had 4 new PRRS virus infection with more than 98% homology, heterology. So this means I had 4 of them. I installed filters in December 2008, and I have just one after, but I will explain you. In October 2009, I got a new introduction, and I was very, very desperate because I thought it was invisible. But what I want to show is that over this year, I tried different ways, not the good ways. I tried to introduce the gilts PRRS negative, acclimate them very on a short cool down, which makes that the gilts were still shedding. We try also after that to vaccinate the gilts. Anyway, we had still some other strain identified, and these 3 strains that we had were always 98.5 to 99.3% homologous. So I really consider it was the same strain turning within the filtered sow farm, affecting the pig wean per sow per year. I decided to do my PRRS virus homologous acclimation off-site in February of 2011. And these are the pig wean per sow per year. Now I stopped to acclimatize them. I start to introduce PRRS negative gilts since March. They are still negative. And this farm will be at 31 probably piglets by the end of the year. So it's very advantageous to have filtrated barn. I just have to put some caulking on my cracks, like Darwin would say. So before filtration, PRRS break every year. After filtration, farm A 1 every 4 years. And I will see, maybe it will be 1 every 5 years, I just hope. And in farm B, 1 every 2 years. Why I got contaminated in these 2 farms, one of them was because the gilts were transported in swine dense area. And the one who have seen where I come from, to deliver gilts in our region, we would almost have to go by helicopter not to see a pig farm. I mean, how could you transport gilts when you have roads with pigs all over? And this is a risk. And the other thing I was doing is that we were bringing the gilts to be weighted at the scale at the feed mill where all the pigs from the region are coming to be weighted. So I really did a big fault of bringing the gilts, getting them weighted in Ange Gardien region, and then bring them to that St. Bridget farm. So I really think check the gilt transport. It can be a risky place where you can get introduced. And again, personnel biosecurity, we should not underestimate. But I'm a strong believer of efficacy of filters. And just like Darwin, having a filtered barn is just like life in a bubble, what it is like to have a filtered sow farm. It's so well said. So I will not go deeply in that because you all know, but the devil is in the details. Double door principle, SOPs, no air leakage. And anyway, Darwin is much better than myself to talk about it. So it's a great tool in PRRS control, and I think it's complementary to PRRS regional control program, because if we have more sow barn filtered, we'll have less shedding, less PRRS in the region. Would Dr. Leman have been involved in one of these PRRS regional control projects? And I think yes. He was a very collaborative veterinarian. So this is a very nice picture that I took from Dr. Morrison's presentation, where you have 20 different projects in U.S. It started in 2002 in Rice County, and just like infectious, because many new farms are now in place. It's even transmitted to Canada, that infectious way of trying to control PRRS. So the first one were in the Niagara region in Ontario. And then there is some sites in Alberta, and now in Quebec we have 236 sites. We have 5 projects going on since September 2011, and it will be fun to see because we cannot be worse. 90% of the sow herd, or the herd on the project are PRRS positive, so it cannot be really worse. And the first really collaborative teamwork project was in 1998, and I'm coming back to that important work that we did together with La Rochelle and Magard. And at that time, the 5 vets, at first we didn't want to show each other the sequences. But after a couple of meetings, we're very intrigued to see what our neighbor vet or company was having. And we start really to share it. And since then, we never stop between the vets in Quebec to send sequence to each other. And when it's similar in the bank, we try to find out, is it close to each other? Because it's very important to understand, is it aerosol or internal? So I will not be long. That benefits of PRRS regional control, you know the farm location, what type of production, you share the PRRS virus status and sequences, and what is more fun is to put a uniform action plan together. So in our region, we have 46 sites in the Montérégie region control project, and Menard is with 3 other integrated company and many farrow to finish producers. So this is the map of the region. As you can see, there is few green dots, which are PRRS negative. And this is my St. Bridget filtered sow farm. So we just, pray. But you see all the red dot, but now it's changing. We see a change and improvement, even if it's since like 1 year we started. What we try to do in our action plan is to do cluster of productions, same source of pigs around sow farm. So we really try to put all our sow farm, we put the nursery and finisher which are around, the pigs coming from the sow farm. We stabilize the sow herd with off-site gilts acclimation and herd closure. And all the herds which are naive in the region are vaccinated with commercial live PRRS virus vaccine, and I will have to say the same PRRS virus vaccine. We also try to prevent introduction of new PRRS virus. We have no gates at the entry of the region to say the truck go out, but we really try to have as less as possible new introduction of PRRS virus wild strain in the region. The real big impact of this project is really to improve the quality of information, because there is a lot of information which are going on everywhere and with no proof. And I think the increased use of OR5 sequencing, homology, phylogenetic tree, more research will be done, the more we'll discover. And it has been an occasion to look back at our system. And very interestingly, there is not so much aerosol transmission up to now in our region. Much more internal. The same strain is found out within same organization. Which research would have interested Dr. Leman the most? I think one of the most interesting things we have seen lately is the discovery of the PRRS resistance gene. And this is because of the PRRS host genetic consortium, where there is researchers from different universities, with the help of NPB, with the ASV producers. And what is fun for once is that all the genetic companies put their effort together to try to find out what can be the famous genes for PRRS resistance. What they found is that if you have a high virus load, you will have a lower weight gain, and this is related to specific genotype and to a SNP marker which is associated with low virus load. We collaborate as Menard with this project, and these are our pigs that we sent to Kansas State. And this is different genotype, and we can see differences in virus load. This is 10 different trials. This is all together. So there is differences, and some animals are more resistant in every genetic company, in but there is really something associated, and the geneticians are very excited about this discovery, which might help us really much in the future to control PRRS. So where do we go now in terms of PRRS control? As practitioner, I think we learned a lot of things about PRRS over the last 24 years. But I really suggest that you use research results and apply it in your day-to-day work. It's very, very important. There is so good research. We just have to apply it in our farms. Try the new project. Get into the PRRS eradication project. We have to be proactive, and we have to be part of our producer success. What will we do when PRRS is completely eradicated? We will have more time to enjoy life.